In 2004, in Giza Governorate, specifically in the Aguza district, Yasmin was a beautiful girl, 19 years old. That year, she had just started college, and like any girl, she was very proud of herself, especially since she lived in a financially comfortable family. So they had bought her a car and she was living a very good life. Not to mention, she was one of the very few girls in her class who had a mobile phone. And the fact that she had a mobile phone in 2004, that's a very important detail, because at that time, not many people had a mobile phone in their hands. Anyway, at that stage, Yasmin was extremely enthusiastic and was a student at the Faculty of Arts, Cairo University, and there were a lot of people trying to get to know her. Like every day, Yasmin would wake up early, go out, and head to her college. But unfortunately, from that day on, Yasmin never came back home again. When Yasmin was late past her usual time, her family tried to call her many times, but her phone was switched off. Because they were very worried about her, they contacted her friends at the university. But they were shocked when her friends told them that Yasmin hadn't even arrived at the university that day. So where did Yasmin go? A day passes and Yasmin is still missing. Her family goes to the police station to file a missing person report, giving Yasmin's description to the security officers and telling them everything about her life. Of course, they also give the security officers Yasmin's phone number and the details of the car she was riding in. At the same time, the security officers begin their investigation and start questioning family and friends. What mattered most to the security officers at that time was to learn about Yasmin's circle of relationships and the extent of any problems she might have, whether with students at the university or with people living in her neighborhood. But in truth, everyone praised Yasmin and said that she had no problems with anyone. But Yasmin's mother told the security officers a very important piece of information, that Yasmin had been in a relationship for just 2 months with a young man named Amr. But this relationship was a bit strange. Yasmin's mother told the security officers that this young man named Amr met her and spoke to her family on the phone because he wanted to come and propose to her. But the problem was that Amr had broken his leg, which prevented him from moving around. He promised her mother that as soon as he was able to walk again, he would come, bring his family, and visit Yasmin's family at home. Yasmin's family at home. And because of that, Yasmin's family didn't know Amr at all. So for them, Amr was just a name, nothing more. And when the security officers asked Yasmin's friends at the university about this young man named Amr, they all confirmed the same information and said that Amr was from Nasser City, that he was a student at the Cinema Institute, and that they all knew Yasmin was in a relationship with him. But they also said the same thing. They didn't know anything else about him, and none of them had ever seen him before. At the same time, the security officers were very surprised at how the young man who was supposedly in a relationship with her or wanted to propose to her hadn't shown up at all until now. How come he hadn't contacted her family to check on Yasmin? That's why they had to bring in this young man named Amr. The available information is that he lives in Nasser City and that he is a student at the Cinema Institute. And that's more than enough information. That's because the Cinema Institute doesn't have many students, so it's very easy for the security forces to find this young man named Amr. And indeed, when they go to the Cinema Institute and ask about this young man, they find him there without any trouble. But here's where things get strange. Amr was very surprised when he first saw the security officers, and when he heard the information they came to tell him, he was even more shocked. Amr had never seen Yasmin, didn't know her, and had never even heard of her before. And the strange thing is, he had never been to Cairo University before. In other words, the man knew nothing about her at all. The strange thing is that the security officers were convinced that Amr was telling the truth. But the problem was, there was no other evidence or information, and that's why he was detained until they could solve this case. At this point, to Yasmin's mother, Amr was no longer just a name. The man had become like an illusion. This young man simply didn't exist. And the security investigations kept going, trying to find any evidence that could help them find Yasmin, until a very strange security alert came in. A report came from the security officers in Al-Shuruq city in 2004. At that time, Al-Shuruq was an area still under construction, so the population there was very low. Anyway, the report said that a worker, while passing by at night, found a suitcase with burn marks on it. Driven by curiosity, the worker opened the suitcase and found the body of a girl inside. It was clear that the body was almost completely burned, as there were flames still on it. And inside the suitcase So when the worker reported it, the security forces quickly moved to the location, examined the suitcase, and lifted fingerprints from it. After that, the body was transferred to the forensic department. It was determined that the body belonged to a girl between 18 and 22 years old. The cause of death was strangulation, and she had been assaulted. At the same time, a flammable substance had been poured on her. And of course, this was done with the intention of burning her. There was nothing in the suitcase that could identify the body. The security forces began checking all missing person reports in the Shorrock area and the surrounding regions. But when they didn't find any matches, they started looking into missing person reports from farther away. The closest report was the one about Yasmin, and when the descriptions matched, the security forces felt that this body must be Yasmin's. The important thing is, the security forces summoned Yasmin's family, and as soon as they saw the clothes on the body, they confirmed it was their daughter. This was a huge shock. Who could do something like this to Yasmin? Especially since she had no conflicts with anyone, because what happened to her was not normal. The way she was killed and the way the body was disposed of showed an unnatural amount of anger and hatred. Was it the robbery that ended with her being killed and the body disposed of? Especially since her car and everything that belonged to her were completely missing. This means it could possibly be a robbery. And the security officers begin to handle Yasmin's case differently. The girl isn't missing. The girl was killed and her body was disposed of in this gruesome way. And at the same time, the only person they have in front of them is the young man named Amr. The security officers are certain he has nothing to do with the case until Sarah appears, Yasmin's closest friend and confidant. She told the security officers that she was very surprised by the information she heard, especially that Amr was denying he knew Yasmin. That's because Sarah knows that they know each other well. At that point, Sarah told the security officers everything that had happened. Sarah told the security officers that she is Yasmin's closest friend and that long before she started university, she met a young man named Mohammed El Masri in the 6th of October area, which is her main place of residence. Ever since Sarah met Mohammed El Masri, they've been very close friends. That's why when she finished high school and started university, Mohammed El Masri used to come visit her. But the thing is, Mohammed El Masri was still in his 3rd year of high school. He failed his final high school exams many times and spent a lot of years in high school. Anyway, during one of Mohammed El Masri's visits to Cairo University to see Sarah, he met Yasmin. The next day, he told her that he wanted Yasmin's number because Amr, his cousin, had been with him at the college a few days earlier, saw Yasmin, liked her, and since then wanted to propose to her. He told her that Amr comes from a good family, lives in Nasser City, and is a student at the Cinema Institute. He also assured her that Amr's financial situation is very good and that he is ready to propose as soon as possible. Sarah was very happy that her friend Yasmin was about to get engaged, so she asked Yasmin first if she had any objections or not. And when Yasmin heard this information from Sarah, she was happy and told her she had no objection and that the man could take her phone number so they could talk and get to know each other first. So indeed, Sarah then gave Yasmin's phone number to Mohammed El Masri, and Mohammed El Masri gave it to Amr, his cousin. The important thing is, 2 days passed and Amr didn't call Yasmin at all. At this point, Sarah and Yasmin called Mohammed El Masri to check in and understand what was going on. Mohammed El Masri shocked them and told them what had happened, that right after Amr brought up the subject, he fell and broke his leg. Because of this fracture, he couldn't leave the house at all and was staying in his apartment in 6th of October City until he could walk on his leg again. At that time, Mohammed El Masri suggested that Yasmin and Amr talk to each other for a while so they could get to know each other better. At the same time, Amr wanted to talk to her family. So Yasmin did just that and started talking to him on the phone. Not only that, but he actually called her family and asked for her hand in marriage. He apologized to Yasmin's mother, explaining that his leg was broken and promised that as soon as he got better, he would come visit right away and bring his family with him. This relationship continued for 2 months and it was only over the phone. Amr would talk to Yasmin every day to reassure her, constantly telling her that the doctor said he was almost ready to walk on his leg again. The important thing is that in her confession, Sarah revealed the most crucial piece of information. On the last day Yasmin disappeared, she was supposed to meet Amr. And I found this out because Mohammed El Masri told her that he was trying to make things work between them and get them to meet and get to know each other better. He was playing the leading role in every possible way. but Mohammed al-Masri asked Yasmin to come a bit closer to them and meet them in 6th of October City. The man couldn't come down to Aguza because his leg was broken, and since Yasmin is kind-hearted, she believed him. So she headed to 6th of October City to meet Amr, whose leg was broken. And up to this point, that's all the information Sarah had. So basically, Yasmin was going out to meet Amr. The important thing is, a security force was dispatched to arrest Mohammed al-Masri, but they discovered that he had been missing for several days, and that's when her suspicions grew even more. They started setting up multiple security checkpoints until he was finally arrested. But the surprise was that they caught him driving a car with the exact same specifications as Yasmin's car. But the color of the car was different. And as soon as Mohammed al-Masri was arrested, he confessed everything to the security officers and told them that he had been impersonating Amr, his cousin, that he was the one who did all of this. And it turned out to be a really big deal. So what actually happened to Yasmin? And why would Mohammed al-Masri go through all of this? That's what we're about to understand now as we learn the story in detail. Mohammed Khalil al-Masri is a complete failure in every sense of the word, not just because he's 22 years old and still a third-year high school student. Not only that, but also because he's a failure who has never accomplished anything in his life. He's always relied on his family and the money they have. He spent his whole life living in Gaza City in his grandmother's apartment. But when his grandmother died, their debts increased, and that's when they moved to the youth housing in 6th of October City. At the time they moved to 6th of October City, the population there wasn't very large yet. And in the area where he lived, he met Sarah. And when Sarah graduated from high school and went to college, their friendship continued. He started going to Cairo University to hang out with her and her friends. And there he saw Yasmin and was very attracted to her. He was sure that Yasmin would never start a conversation with him. First, because his financial situation was very poor, and he saw Yasmin as someone who was wealthy and comfortable, and it would be hard for her to agree to get to know him. On top of that, he felt inferior and lacked self-confidence because he knew he was a failure, and Yasmin would hardly want to get to know him. That's why he started thinking about how he could get to know Yasmin. At that moment, Mohammed al-Masri decided to pretend to be Amr, his cousin, because Amr was from a wealthy family and at the same time a student at the Film Institute. That's why he decided to play this character and approach her with this new persona. So Mohammed al-Masri went to his friend Sarah and told her that he wanted Yasmin's number because his cousin Amr wanted to propose to her. And the idea that he made up a story about wanting to marry Yasmin made her more open to talking to him even though it was wrong. But that's what happened. Unfortunately, when Mohammed al-Masri got the phone number, he didn't know how to explain that Amr wouldn't be able to meet Yasmin. So at that moment, he made up a story that Amr had broken his leg and was staying with him at his apartment in 6th of October City. And to make things look natural, Mohammed al-Masri gave the impression that everything was normal. He gave Yasmin the home phone number so she could call Amr and check on him because Amr couldn't contact her at all since Yasmin had a mobile phone. But Amr was calling from the home phone. And indeed, Yasmin called Amr, who was actually Mohammed al-Masri, and he started interacting with her as if he were Amr, impressing her with his personality and life, and even speaking to her family. Over time, Mohammed al-Masri realized that he had managed to get Yasmin attached to Amr's persona. But when Mohammed al-Masri started to feel that Yasmin was getting bored and wasn't accepting the idea that his leg was broken and he couldn't go out, so he decided to carry out the second part of the plan. That was because he was now sure that Yasmin was attached to Amr. And the day before Yasmin disappeared, Mohammed al-Masri called her, but this time as himself, and told her that he would act as a mediator and wanted to fix things between them because Yasmin had gotten a bit upset. He told her that Amr was ready to meet her, but only in 6th of October City. At this point, Yasmin agreed, and Mohammed al-Masri arranged with her to meet at October University. Then they would go to the apartment, pick up Amr, and head out to sit somewhere for a while. After that, she would take Amr back, and Yasmin agreed to do this. On the day of the disappearance, Yasmin left her house and went to 6th of October University, where she actually met Mohammed al-Masri. He told her, "Let's go pick up Amr from the apartment." When they arrived, Mohammed got out of the car, supposedly to go get Amr and bring him down. But after 10 minutes, he came back and told her that he tried to bring Amr down. But unfortunately, he couldn't. The man wasn't able to support him on his own. So he asked Yasmin to come up and help him. Unfortunately, Yasmin believed him and went up with him. She stopped at the apartment door and decided she wouldn't go inside. But when Mohammed went in, he told her he couldn't get Amr out of the bedroom, so he pleaded with her, "Please, come in and help me support him." So Yasmin agreed and went into the apartment with him. But as soon as she entered the apartment, she was shocked when Mohammed al-Masri locked the door and sat in front of her. He told her everything honestly. He told her that there was no one named Amr and that he was the one who loved her and wished she would accept him. At that moment, Yasmin broke down and couldn't believe what was happening to her. She asked him to give her a chance to think, just so she could find a way to leave the apartment. She didn't know that Mohammed al-Masri had planned everything. At that time, Mohammed had two options. Either Yasmin would agree or he would assault her and force her to agree against her will. The man had planned everything and had already made up his mind to do it. And indeed, when he saw Yasmin trying to escape from the apartment, he took her to the bedroom, tied her up with a rope, and assaulted her. So when Yasmin tried to resist him and made noise, he strangled her until she died and then acted completely normal. He then took Yasmin's body, put it in a suitcase, poured gasoline on it, then put it in Yasmin's car trunk, drove to the Shorouk area, threw the suitcase in the street and set it on fire. Then he took the car, removed the license plates, went to an area in October City and changed the color of the car. And he did that with the money that was in Yasmin's bag. At that point, he broke the phone and got rid of everything. At that time, Mohammed al-Masri had decided to keep the car after changing its color, convinced that no one would ever discover this crime. Until the worker finds the suitcase, discovers the body inside, files a report, and they connect the missing person report with Yasmin's disappearance and identify the body. Then the events of the case unfold just as we described them. Omar, his cousin, couldn't believe that all of this had happened. He couldn't accept that Mohammed al-Masri, his relative, would do something like this to him. After the investigations are completed, Mohammed al-Masri is sentenced to death. May God have mercy on Yasmin and grant patience to her family. In 2004, Mohammed al-Masri managed to impersonate someone and convince those around him that it was Amr who was actually talking to Yasmin, even though there was no artificial intelligence or anything like that back then. That's why we shouldn't trust people more than we should.